Hey, FlimsyLunchTray here, and welcome to World of Warships for our Tuesday edition video. A little bit of a change since we normally do these videos Friday-Saturday combination. Today being upgrade commander build video on the Tier 9 Premium Super Cruiser, a really heavy cruiser, Azuma. So yesterday you saw us take the Azuma out, and I talked at length about the ship, so please check out that video as well. But today we're focusing more on the ship itself versus the play style. So, as traditional, first we talk about what kind of cruiser is. When we're looking at cruisers, battleships, destroyers, we talk about what type of ship are they, right? So yes, it's a cruiser, but what kind of cruiser? Well, it's the super cruiser, mainly due to her large size, large survivability. With survivability experts, you know, you're looking at 62,400 versus I think it's like 58,000. Also the size of her guns, that you have 9 310mm guns, making her more of a super cruiser. Now the playstyle of this ship is that she is a passive kiting cruiser, a long-range cruiser. You do not brawl. Azuma doesn't know the word brawl. She doesn't know the word aggressive. Okay, she will be punished a lot if you try to play her aggressive, and you'll just die. Okay, Azuma commanders, Azuma players who get to the last half of the battle are a rare breed. Okay, they don't exist. They're not the majority of Azuma players don't tend to make it towards the last half of the battle. Okay, and that mainly comes down to one of the things. Whether it be positioning and you're playing too far forward when you should be playing at range, and I mean like 15 kilometers and more like maybe 18, 19 kilometers, is her armor. Okay, she takes a lot of crap and she can't protect herself too well. Okay, she's covered in a lot of 25mm, the bow and stern. But you get some differences here in the midsection of the ship, but it only goes up to 27mm. So I think they're saying a lot of things like 380mm and stuff. You take a lot of high explosive damage in this ship because there's a lot of high explosive in the game, and especially at high tier that can pin 27mm. So you just take a lot of crap. It would be different if Azuma had, I mean, we'd play better if you had a thick, like even as having thicker deck armor. Like, okay, let's start talking like 32, maybe 50mm deck armor, but she doesn't. She's squishy, and she takes a lot of HE penetration all around. In terms of where her citadel is at, it is a definitely above waterline citadel. If we look at it from the front on, you can see there's a little bit of a slope here, but it really can't necessarily be called a turtleback armor scheme when you're looking at it. It will slope things up, but you will still easily get punished because your citadel is above waterline, and it extends the whole length of the ship from the forward main turret to the rear main battery turret. So Azuma is a ship that if you show broadside even to cruiser guns, you will likely be citadeled. Especially when what you're seeing in the higher tiers, whether it be 7, 8, 9, or 10, or super ship. So you want to angle. If you do not angle, you will receive black ribbons, or your enemy ship targeting you will get black ribbons. Let me say it that way. In terms of her gun armor, 305mm on the frontal plate, 152 to 127 on the side. So even though these are 310mm guns, kind of weak on the side, especially. 102 on top, and then the back's a bit stronger. It's 305, so it shares the same as the frontal plate, as the rear plate. Okay, so we do I take main battery modification 1 in the first slot with upgrades, just to help keep these guns in action, because they're pretty sizable, right? And they are apt to get incapacitated if you're not careful. Okay, enough of that. Let's go on. Let's talk a little more about the ship here. In terms of her modules, she's a premium ship. You get some of these additional advantages of earning more rewards. Also that she's a tier 9 ship, and tier 9 ships tend to do really well. Premium ships do really well in credit earning. But what you have with our current build, note main battery modification 3 in the 6th slot for a faster reload time. We're down to 17.6. We've taken gun feeder armor commander, which means our shell switching time is 10.6. I do recommend it because you will get some opportunities to fire on broadside targets. And the AP can pack even more of a punch if you're able to punch through. And Citadel, that enemy cruiser. She can definitely wreck enemy cruisers really easily with her armor piercing and do notable damage to battleships. 180 degree turn time, 31.3 seconds. And you see that I even have the main battery modification 2 for a faster turret traverse in the 3rd slot. And we also have grease the gears on our commander. This is a very slow turning turret, so you're going to really want to invest in making the most out of this because it's like a battleship turret traverse time. Okay, so early positioning is important in getting your guns on target and in a kiting position before maybe even the enemy team even appears. HE shell damage 5,100, AP shell damage 8,650, and we'll talk more about those two when we look at the armament. Hit point pool or health pool wise 62,400. That's with survivability expert. Otherwise you're like 58,000 something, I believe. So a more robust health pool on the Azuma here, and she really needs it since she does eat a lot of damage and takes a lot of HE penetration. You may have noticed those secondary turrets as well on the side here. Not that the secondaries are anything to brag about. I'll just pop them up real quick. They do have a 7-kilometer range, 2.7 second reload time, but again, you're only 8 guns total on each side, so 16. As you can see, they're dual turrets, so they're not the strongest either. Or do they even recognize them? Yeah, they have their own hit point pool, right? So you don't go for secondaries on this guy, but you have them. Gunfire control system 19.1 kilometers. It doesn't include if you were to take the activating spotter plane or taking the gunfire control system mod 2 I'll talk about. But really good main battery firing range for a tier 9 cruiser here in World of Warships. She's among the more longest ranged cruisers in the game, and you definitely need that with Azuma, with her passive playstyle, farming playstyle, kiting playstyle. Okay. Propulsion 34 knots. If we take Sarah Mike flag, we can bump that up slightly to 35.7 knots. First slot, main armaments modification 1. This is going to reduce the risk of your main battery becoming incapacitated, improve main battery survivability, and reduce your main battery repair time if it should become incapacitated. So with how weakly armored the side turrets are, I feel pretty comfortable in taking main armaments modification 1. You wouldn't take this for AA or secondaries. Secondaries suck. AA can do okay against tier 8 and will struggle against tier 10 or super CVs unless they fly right into your flak clouds. Magazine modification 1 don't need. You just take Juliet Charlie combat signal. This only reduces the risk of your ship magazine detonating by negative 70%, or you could have completely eliminating the risk 100%. So much better take when you're playing randoms, ranked clan battles. Possible option would be talking about the spotting aircraft modification, which would extend the spotting aircraft consumable action time, but I don't really feel like you need it. Much better to have the main armaments modification 1 in my honest opinion. Second slot, there's a few options we can talk about here. What I have mounted now is the damage control system modification 1. I don't really have issues with, I mean, you did see in yesterday's video, because we had the sub behind us, he incapacitated our rudder, and I can't remember if we had it twice, just because of the submarine and we were kiting away, because you run from subs pretty much in World of Warships, or you get shotgunned. But what we've done is we've taken the damage control system mod 1 to reduce risk of catching fire, negative 5%, risk of flooding, negative 3%. I'm trying to help a little bit with the ship's lack of armor and why I take this. I don't really feel led to take engine room protection. That sub still would have knocked out our steering gears pretty positive, regardless if we had mounted this upgrade or not. Other option I made mention of in yesterday's video was the hydroacoustic search modification 1. If I was going to play Azuma a lot, if I thought she was a good ship in World of Warships as a premium ship, then I would easily pick up the Hydroacoustic Search Modification 1. It actually would have helped us right when we had that sub underneath of us. Having that, because it ended just as I was getting up on him. So, well, he was getting up on me, and I had to turn in to avoid torps, so on and so forth. But you can pick this up. It is going to cost you a pretty penny in coal if the game decides to show this to us. 17,000 coal, and my armory has been messing up every day I log in, so I have to actually log out of the game and log back in. But you have access to a negative 25% coupon, so I think it brings it down like 12,500 coal, 12,750, something like that. So I do recommend if you pick up the special upgrades, do it with the coupon. It's much better. You also have defensive AA. That's one of the things you can switch out between either the Hydro or defensive AA. But again, I would encourage more Hydro, especially that we're in 2023 and there's a lot of submarines now in the game. So Hydro is very beneficial. Third slot, we have the main battery modification 2. This is what I recommend because of that colossally slow main battery turret traverse for 310mm guns on a heavy or super cruiser. Normally you'd see something maybe more on like 20 seconds or something like that. Even if you've taken both main battery modification 2 and grease the gears on your commander. So you're really needing it here on the ship. So this really, I advise this one first and foremost. Now the second option I would consider that I normally would take would be something more along the lines of the aiming systems modification 1. Now you can test this out, you can switch between the two of them, it's up to you. Granted, your turret traverse is going to start looking probably more like 34, 35, 36 seconds if you give up main battery mod 2 for the aiming systems mod 1. The big draw to this is that you're getting better main battery shell dispersion by negative 7%. You get a light buff to your secondaries, but the improvement of your maximum and vertical horizontal dispersion is going to be improved by somewhere between 4 to maybe 10 meters, 11 meters, depending. So that will increase your accuracy if you take the aiming systems mod 1. Now, normally you're not really moving, constantly shifting side to side to side, maybe something like, for example, Nevsky. So there could be an argument for this, but it's really up to you. But with how slow these turrets are, I really feel led to take the main battery mod 2. Something I had done, a change I made when playing Azuma this past weekend. Originally I had the damage control system mod 2 to help with reducing the fire extinguishing time and flooding recovery time by negative 15% because you get full 60-second duration fires on Azuma. Typically, I think normal cruisers are either like 45 or 30 seconds. I don't remember off the top of my head now, but I gave that up and I went for propulsion. Okay, very good decision that I did this. It really helps messing with enemy ships targeting you at long range. The first battle I played on this Friday, since it's been a while since I played it with the prop mod, I had Musashis and Yamatos shooting at me from 22 kilometers away. Okay, this helps get out of the way of those massive 18.1 inch shells. Okay, you're a large cruiser. This is not a small cruiser. Okay, people are going to target you because they know, experienced players, I mean even average players know that your armor is weak. You will be easily overmatched. So you got to pay attention to matchmaking. Since you can be wrecked so easily by a lot of larger caliber shells and 457s and up. Okay, so I do recommend propulsion mod first and foremost. If you don't like my recommendation, feel free to try something else, but I think you'll find the prop mod 1 is best because of course these videos, it's my opinion. Okay, you're free to disagree, just be kind. Fifth slot, concealment system mod 1. Our concealment now, max conceal you can get on the ship is 11.9 kilometers. This reduces detectability range by sea and also by air. So by air it is 8.7 detectability range by air. So when you need to go dark, like when we were dealing with that Jean Bar yesterday, we're getting up, he pushed us up to the A line. because this ship doesn't know, it does not handle, it doesn't know the word brawl, it doesn't know the word aggressive. She does not do well at either of those two terms, okay? We had to go dark, get a little moved over, so we didn't get pinned up against the wall, because as soon as you get pinned up against the border, your ship speed slows down, so on and so forth. And to get off the border meant having to show broadside to a Jean Bar with his 15-inch guns, which wrecks us, okay? We die very quickly. So I would recommend Concealment System Mod 1 for those times that you are needing to disengage and heal, and we'll talk about the heal here in a minute too. 6 slot, I recommend main battery modification 3. Otherwise, your reload time is going to be closer to 19 seconds, a little over 19, I think, just off the top of my head, maybe 20, but I think it's over 19, somewhere between there. So we're increasing our damage per minute. The amazing thing about these guns is they have really good HE. Have really good high explosive. I'll talk more about that. You can already get access to spotter plane. I've taken Eye in the Sky on our commander. I'll talk more about that as it reduces our cooldown time by 2 minutes versus being like 4 minutes. Okay, so much better, I think, to take main battery mod 3, have Eye in the Sky, and knowing that when you need to have that extra distance, you have the spotter plane ready to go. You also have Gunfire Control System Mod 2. This is going to extend your main battery firing range out by plus 16%. So then we're probably looking at something over 22, close to 23 kilometers. I don't recommend this. You have really good shell velocity. It's better than Alaska if we're comparing Tier 9 super cruisers. So your shells will get on to target very quickly. But kind of becomes more of an issue accurately hitting ships that far out if you don't have your spotter plane activated to get a better idea of how they're angling or the direction they're sailing in, so on and so forth. You don't need Auxiliary Armaments Mod 2. Not much of a sense, I would say, in terms of building up her AA. Her AA rating is 73, but there's like other Tier 9 cruisers that play the AA role better, for example, Neptune or Seattle or Buffalo, but more Seattle and Neptune play that role better, okay? Moving along to the armaments that I've been really trying to hold off talking about. She has a 27% chance of causing fire on target. Now we can bump that up with these 2 combat signals. Now we're rocking 29%. You could bump that up even further with the commander. I'll just briefly reference that now. Pyrotechnician, or sorry, they keep changing the name of this all the time. Demolition Expert. Plus 1%, so then you have a 30% chance of starting fires on target. This is really where your bread and butter in terms of being a passive kiter damage farming ship really comes into play. So if you're playing for damage, you definitely want to take those 2 combat signals and recognizing the strength of the high explosive. Also for the fact that you pin 52mm armor. Okay, you pin on most ships in the game. Of course, once you hit the main battery turrets on a lot of ships, you know, it's much stronger than that, so it's just a non-pin. You can run into a little more issues with some of your Russian high-tier ships in the game who are coated in really thick armor. Becomes a little bit of an issue, but this fact that it's 52 helps you a lot. So your HE alpha is really good on this ship, and the fact that it's 5100 damage. Shell velocity 836, really good. Same shell velocity for the AP. AP maximum damage 8,650. So if you're able to line up good broadside salvos on enemy battleships and cruisers, I would recommend switching to armor piercing and taking advantage of that. Other thing that helps you out a little bit is you have a 7-kilometer depth charge airstrike. I would be in favor of Wargaming buffing this. If they're gonna, Azuma needs buffs, in my opinion. She's not good in 2023, especially with submarines. I would buff. One of the things I would do if I could change Azuma is buff her. I would say is buff her depth charge airstrikes to 10 kilometers versus 7 kilometers. Much more helpful. You get 2 available flights. 1 aircraft per flight, and it drops 2 bombs and payload. So basically 4 if you stack the depth charge airstrikes. So this would be something that would be very favorable if you could have 10 versus 7, but you only have 7. Again, your hydroacoustic search range is 5. So you have a 2-kilometer window to play with there. In terms of consumables, she has the standard damage control party for cruisers. Action time 5 seconds, cooldown time 60 seconds. One of the things that's nice without taking Superintendent is you get 4 repair parties here on Azuma. With Superintendent, you get 5. And this isn't just any average repair party. This is the improved repair party in terms of her cooldown time, 40 seconds. So you might recognize that from like the Vermont, Ohio, Georgia, Massachusetts. I think some more ships in the game are kind of getting more of this 40-second cooldown time. This helps the ship immensely. Okay, if Wargaming didn't do this, I'd be like, why not? You know. So they did actually help you out here and give you more heals because they know the ship's a bit more fragile, and starting off with 4 repair parties versus 3, and then also the fact that they gave it a 40-second cooldown time. So they are aware of the ship's weaknesses, and they've tried to help you out here. Your HP per second is plus 312. With India Delta Combat, you can bump that up to 374, and I do recommend that. I have blown through all 5 heals on this ship in games, and I've gotten multiple dreadnoughts too in the course of playing the Azuma. Spotting aircraft, main battery firing range buffed by plus 20%, so you're going to start hitting targets at 22, 23 kilometers away. Really helpful when needed. You will find yourself at times, because you're not playing. This isn't a mid-range cruiser. Mid-range, I would say, being 12 to 15 kilometers. This is a long-range cruiser. You play 15 kilometers and back. You need the time to avoid salvos, kind of like I was talking about that. Yamato and Musashi firing at me from 22 kilometers away, right? Why are you shooting me? This battleship's closer to me than you. But they know of the weaker armor scheme of Azuma. Okay, and easily overmatched punch through, hit the Citadel. With Eye in the Sky skill, I'll talk about it on the commander here in a minute. Our cooldown time is 120 seconds. Then you have hydroacoustic search, detection of torpedoes 3.5, detection of ships 5 kilometers, submarine spotting range at maximum depth 2 kilometers. We have 2-minute cooldown time, 100-second action time. If we were to take this guy, hydroacoustic search mod 1, it adds 20%. Then we would be 120 seconds. So we actually would have killed that sub a bit sooner yesterday if I had this mounted, because it ran out just as we spotted the sub. So if you're going to play Azuma regularly, or you want the most out of the ship, I would say definitely pick up that hydroacoustic search mod 1. Buff your hydro. Now, what I did do in that game yesterday is I do run Sierra Bravo. Okay, this adds 10%, so we had 110 seconds. So I was running this. Okay, then with the mod or the special upgrade, you would be looking at like 132-second action time on your hydroacoustic search, and then also take November Foxtrot. This is going to reduce your preparation and reload time of your consumables. So now you see, rather than 60, 57, rather than 40, 38, rather than 120, 114, rather than 120, 114. Okay. You do have defensive AA here on Azuma. Do I recommend running it? No. It's just not that. I mean, it's good if you're dealing with a lot of CVs, but the hydro just helps you so much because there's so many more things in the game with torpedoes than when this ship was first introduced back in 2019. So the hydro has much more value than the defensive AA, especially since other ships play the AA role better than Azuma, but you can do okay against tier 8 CVs. Other combat signals I would run. I would basically do this. The little, you don't necessarily need Sierra Bravo, but if you have plenty, and I do, then I would encourage, like, this would be your, oh, sorry, excuse me. You can run this, or you could also run that, because you have the full duration fires. Reducing that by negative 20% is helpful. So basically you go from 60-second fires to 48-second fires duration on your ship if you don't have access to utilize damage control party, or maybe your repair party's on cooldown. Okay, so probably this would be my preference in running overall, just because you have full duration fires on Azuma and her being a super cruiser. Moving swiftly to the commander, I don't really think it's too complicated, but I'll talk about the build I've run, and I'm really comfortable with it. I really do like it. I've had much better performance out of the ship. You know, it helps when you run a 21-point commander. But this build I've liked versus a different build I was running on ship. I don't remember what the other one was at the top of my head. But so this is what I would recommend. I'll start you off with the 10-point commander, and then we'll build in towards the 21-point commander. So this commander, now I technically run him on my Yamato. Now you do have access to another commander, Yamamoto Ishiroku. I think I have him trained for, he's also trained for Yamato right now. But I have him built more for Maya, since most Japanese cruisers have torpedoes. But you have Grease the Gears, enhanced skill, plus 20% versus plus 15%. So there's a bit of a saving grace there if you are wanting that little additional buff. I just wanted to make mention of it. And you also do have, sorry, I need to just reference this to help you guys get the most out of the ship. You have 2 seasoned commanders, one for 35,000 coal, I think it's 35,000 coal, and another for 1,500 doubloons. They have access to enhanced skill on the survivability expert, plus 500 hit points versus the plus 450 that we have now. So you would get 450 more hit points if that's that big of a deal to you total. Okay. So mileage may vary. I just want to reference those 2 things for you really quickly. But for a 10-point commander, I would say first pick up Grease the Gears. Really, really, really need it on here on the ship. We've talked about that already. Don't need to go more details. 3-point commander, pick up Eye in the Sky. Spotting aircraft consumable cooldown time, -50%. Number of spotting aircraft charges, you get 2, so you go from 5 to 7. They had a nerf on this originally where it was a -50% to the action time of this, but a lot of players weren't taking it, so Wargaming removed that nerf, which was really good. And you're seeing this, it's more, I am more favor of this skill now than what I would have been in the past. Okay, so it is really good running here on Azuma because she's a long-range cruiser. 6-point commander, probably it's up to you. You could go either Superintendent or Adrenaline Rush first. Myself, I probably go for Adrenaline Rush first because I'm greedy for a bit more damage and having a shorter reload time down. So as you lose your health, you know, your reload's going to drop down from 17.6 to 17.2, 17, 16.5, 16 seconds. Okay, and that's nice to have more of that DPM with these 310mm guns. I do an Adrenaline Rush, and then for a 10-point commander, then I would go for Concealment Expert. Okay, so these 4 first. After that, I would work towards a 16-point commander, where then a 13-point commander, I'd take Superintendent, get additional hydroacoustic search, get an additional plane. You technically start off with 4 spotter planes, and then you get 5, 6 with Superintendent, and then you get, you go from 4 to 5, and then you get 6 to 7 with spotter plane, Eye in the Sky skill. So 13 points, and you blow through heals really fast in Azuma as well, because she just takes a lot of damage. Then 16-point commander, I'd say pick up Survivability Expert. Bolstering, making yourself more of this very massive hit points for a tier 9 heavy cruiser. I mean, your hit point pool is rivaling that of a tier 8 battleships. Okay. And then 20-point commander, I'd say pick up top grade gunner. This gives you the permanent effect of your main battery reload time being reduced. That's why you saw the 2.7 second reload time on our secondaries. It's because of this. Otherwise, it would be just a little bit more. It would be closer to 3-second reload time. And then you have the can be activated skill, where your main battery reload time is reduced by -8% if there is an enemy ship within your standard detectability range, which is 11.9. You don't do lighthouse builds on Azuma by any means or stretch of the imagination. This just gives you that extra DPM to deal with when the enemy team is pushing in and they're surrounding you. Your flank has collapsed. It's just you. Okay, I had this happen multiple times with Azuma, and so I was a little bit more deadlier. Okay, with this skill. I'll talk about another skill perhaps you could take in place of the top grade gunner, but I like top grade gunner. I'm finding it works quite well for Azuma, at least for what I've been experiencing and playing with the ship so far. Then for a 21 point skill, Gunfeeder. It's not a big deal when you're grinding up a 21 point commander if you don't have this skill at first. Maybe you disagree, you could take this earlier. You could take this as your 17 point skill, and then 18, 19, 20, 21. Then your last 4 points, pick up top grade gunner after that. If you so wish, you could do that, of course. Main battery shell type switching time, negative 40%. And I say it's not big a deal per se as first, because firing the high explosive is never bad. Even if you have a ship go broadside on you, you know, okay, let me just go get the HE out, and then I'll switch to AP once my guns have fired, okay? That is possible, it does work here, but it's nice when you're in the middle of a reload and say you're, you know, that 11 seconds, right? It's 10.6 second shell switching time. And it's like, oh, this cruiser's going broadside, and I'm gonna switch to my armor piercing. Okay, I do like having that flexibility here with Azuma. So yes, I do like that. Now, if you're not so concerned about that, and you want a different 1 point skill to take, I would maybe incoming fire alert. So when those Yamatos fire at 22 kilometers away, you know it's coming, so on and so forth. So I do briefly need to talk about if you can live with a 4-minute cooldown time on the Eye in the Sky, or your spotter plane, excuse me. The other 2 point skill I was torn between was priority target, just because this ship is vulnerable. But when you're playing long range, this is a long range cruiser, again, let me remind you, as long as you're looking around in between your firing and paying attention to what enemy battleships, where their guns are aiming, if they're looking at you or not. Typically, if you're firing on an enemy Yamato and you're setting him on fire at long range, he's going to get annoyed and he's going to shoot you. So then I'm like, oh yeah, he's going to shoot me. But so just be looking on the horizon, and you can do fine without priority target, I would say. If this was a more mid-range to brawling cruiser, then my tone would definitely shift away from Eye in the Sky. But I think Eye in the Sky works much better than priority target. Now, in terms of another 4 point skill, if you don't want top grade gunner, you could take the radio location, right? So then I would have got a heads up that the Sims was moving in the course of that battle, because when he popped up with the smoke, he kind of surprised me when he started shooting our Azuma. So that would have been nice to know, right? Or you have a sub who's surfaced and pushing in on you. Oh, submarine's pushing in on me. I didn't know it, right? So you kind of have to base it off of, is someone within my standard detectability range of 11.9 and I'm not fired my guns? Oh, sub or destroyers pushing in on me. Pop hydro, right? You saw me again do that in yesterday's game when I thought something was pushing in on us. But radio location could be a good switch out for top grade gunner. I really can't see the use of a defense and ASW expert. I think there's some buffs coming to this, and in the Warships dev blog I haven't covered yet, and I really need to actually. But I can't remember if it affected cruisers too. I'm pretty sure it did. I think you get a cooldown time on your consumables when this skill's activated, or do you already get that? Yeah, you already get it. Yeah, so they're making some changes to the skills. I need to look at it. But this video's gone on 33 minutes. I need to wrap this up. This is what I recommend. If you have a question about a skill I didn't suggest, please let me know. You have 29% already with both the combat signals. So being greedy for using 2 points of skill, which I think are better spent elsewhere, like on Eye in the Sky or priority target if you really push it. So I don't think you need Demolition Expert so much. So let me know your thoughts. If you have questions, or maybe you have thoughts about a skill I didn't cover, let me know. But I hope this helps you with the Azuma. Yeah, my video covers it yesterday, but she's not so hot in 2023, and I don't foresee her getting any better in 2024 unless Wargaming addresses the ship needing some buffs, which I would say would be she needs a bit more armor, and she needs a longer range depth charge airstrike, because she just doesn't have that maneuverability to be able to easily avoid incoming torpedoes. But that's just me. I mean, it's kind of weird when something like Thunder has better rotor shift time than Azuma. So if you liked this video, give a thumbs up. If you didn't, give a thumbs down. Subscribe if you do want to see more. If you're subscribed, thanks so much. I appreciate it. And we'll catch you next time. Take care.